Podcast, where truth moves faster than a Holstein calf. No waiting on some pretty page. We're charting new ground in the digital age. From genomic codes to row-wide facts, we cut through the noise, no holding back. Not your daddy's dairy news tonight. We're sparking debates with every insight. The ring's not where the real fight's at. It's in the data, in the channel chat. From pasture to processor to your morning cup, we're raising the stakes. Try and get ahead of herd. Yeah! Where the future's more than just a word. Ahead of herd. Come on! The Bullvine's calling, let your voice be heard.
Welcome to the Bullvine Podcast, where dairy producers and industry insiders come together for real talk about the future of dairying. I'm your host, and today we're diving into the numbers and the stories behind the hidden genetic risks that are shaping herd health, profitability, and the decisions we make in the barn every day. If you've ever wondered why your milk checks aren't growing as fast as your herd's genetic merit, or if you're questioning whether chasing the highest genomic proofs is really paying off, you're in the right place. We'll break down the latest research, share practical insights from producers across North America, and give you the tools you need to make smarter breeding decisions without the jargon. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let's get started with this week's episode of The Bullvine.
Welcome back to The Deep Dive, the show where we unearth the most critical insights for dairy producers. If you're constantly chasing efficiency, battling rising costs, and trying to get every ounce of profit from your herd, then today's deep dive is definitely for you.
It absolutely is. Today, we're tackling a really interesting feature article from the Bullvine that, honestly, it shook me a bit when I first read it. We're going to uncover a silent, multi-billion-dollar problem that might be quietly eroding your profits, even if you think you're using the most advanced genetics available.
Yeah, we are diving into a piece titled Inbreeding's Hidden Costs, Protecting Dairy Herd Profits. Our mission today is to reveal some truly surprising facts about how current breeding practices, even with the best intentions, the best tools, might be impacting herd health and, well, your bottom line. It's really about what your bull proofs aren't telling you and why that matters for every single cow in your barn.
And that hidden information, once you see it, it is game-changing. We're talking real money, real herd performance, and really making absolutely sure that our genetic progress isn't coming at an unforeseen and, frankly, an unacceptable cost.
Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever had that nagging feeling like you're running faster just to stay in the same place? You're poring over bull proofs, chasing those top genetic numbers. Maybe on paper your herds never looked better, yet conception rates might be slumping, health issues seem to creep up, and something just doesn't quite add up to that promised genetic leap.
Yeah, that feeling. It's not just in your head. I've heard it echoed by producers, from California dry lots all the way to Wisconsin tie stalls. It's not isolated, it's a quiet trend, but it's pervasive. The article calls it a multi-billion-dollar genetic reckoning. It suggests there are costs here that go way beyond just milk price or feed cost, even though, yeah, those certainly keep us up at night.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting and honestly a bit shocking. Let me hit you with a number that genuinely stopped me in my tracks. A 2020 study from Penn State. It showed that between 2011 and 2019, the U.S. Holstein industry lost somewhere between $2.5 and $6 billion.
Wow.
Think about that. Billions. Not from market crashes, not feed crises, but from something much more insidious. Rising inbreeding. Quietly eroding profits right under our noses, just as genomic selection was really hitting its stride.
That's an astonishing figure, almost unbelievable when you first hear it. And to really put it into perspective for your operation, the American Holstein Breeders Association quantifies it even more precisely. They say every 1% increase in inbreeding costs you about $23 per cow annually per lactation.
$23.
Imagine that for a moment.
Right.
You're milking, say, 1,000 cows. That's $23,000 a year lost for every single percentage point of inbreeding your herd picks up over 5 years. That's a staggering $115,000. Enough to replace, 40 solid cows? That's a direct hit to your bottom line. And a lot of folks aren't even aware it's happening.
It really is a paradox, isn't it? Because genomic selection, I mean, it's been a game changer.
Right.
It's slashed generation intervals, from maybe 5.5 years down to less than 2. And research from the Council on Dairy Cattle Breeding, CDCB, shows genetic gain jumped anywhere from 12% to over 100% compared to the old progeny testing days. Yeah. It feels like rocket fuel for genetic progress. So how can something so beneficial simultaneously create such a huge problem?
That is the $1 million question, or maybe the $6 billion question, right?
Yeah.
Because that same rocket fuel, well, it's speeding up progress, has inadvertently driven down the effective population size of U.S. Holstein bulls. It's down to a historic low, just 43 to 66 animals.
43.
Yeah, think about that number. The genetic diversity of the world's most dominant dairy breed is now resting on fewer animals than most high school graduating classes. We're concentrating our genetic base like never before, and that creates a systemic vulnerability, a big one.
Yeah. So, okay, we've seen the staggering cost, but how exactly is this inbreeding working its silent magic? It's not just one simple number, is it? Understanding the nuance here is absolutely critical if you want to fight back. We've traditionally looked at pedigree-based inbreeding. That's like, cattle genealogy.
Right. Pedigree-based inbreeding. It calculates the odds an animal inherited identical genes from a common ancestor way back when. But here's the critical part the article highlights. It often underestimates what's truly happening genetically. Genomic inbreeding, on the other hand, uses what scientists call runs of homozygosity, or ROH.
ROH.
Picture it like scanning the cow's entire DNA blueprint and highlighting these long stretches where the genetic code from both parents is identical. It gives us a much more precise, real-time picture.
A real-time picture of the animal's actual genetic makeup, not just the probability based on ancestors.
Exactly. And what's really fascinating is that genomic inbreeding can distinguish between old inbreeding, stuff from way back in the pedigree, and recent inbreeding, which comes from repeatedly using those popular high-ranking sires we just talked about. This distinction is vital.
Why is that distinction so important between old and new?
Well, a 2023 study from the University of Guelph showed that this recent inbreeding, the kind accumulating under genomic selection, has a sharper, more detrimental impact. It hits both production and fitness traits harder than the older sort of traditional inbreeding our breeds have carried for generations.
Okay, so when you're looking at your numbers, you really want to use genomic measures if you can get them.
Absolutely, because they give you the truest picture of what's happening in your herd right now.
Which naturally leads to the next question. Where do you actually find these critical numbers for your herd?
Good question. For U.S. herds, the CDCB website Council on Dairy Cattle Breeding, that's your primary resource. They publish current Holstein inbreeding reports offering both pedigree and genomic levels for AI sires. And it's a free resource. You just need to look.
Okay, CDCB for the U.S. What about Canada?
For Canadian producers, the info is actually integrated right into their genetic evaluation system through Lactanet, so potentially easier to access there.
That's good.
But here's an interesting point the article makes. Most breed associations don't routinely put these inbreeding levels front and center in their regular communications. You often have to dig for it, which the article argues really needs to change if we're going to tackle this head on as an industry.
Yeah, it needs to be more visible. So when you do dig, what do you find? Are there big differences?
You find some really interesting comparisons. Top genomic sires, those young bulls everyone's chasing, they're averaging around 4-6% inbreeding.
Okay.
Proven sires, the ones with daughter data, typically run maybe 3-5%.
Slightly lower.
Slightly lower. Now, it's really important to clarify, these are the bull's own inbreeding levels. The average Holstein cow walking around today is already at about 11% genomic inbreeding.
11%. Wow.
So AI companies are actually managing this to some extent. They're selecting elite bulls that are often less inbred than the general female population they'll be bred to.
So why are the genomic bulls still slightly higher in inbreeding then, if they're managing it?
It really comes back to that selection intensity. When you can identify the quote-unquote best animals at 6 months old instead of waiting 5 years for progeny tests, well, the temptation, the economic pressure, is to concentrate selection on a smaller, very elite group.
Right. Get that gain faster.
Exactly. The math for immediate genetic gain looks great until it creates these longer-term diversity issues. The bottleneck gets tighter.
This trend also highlights some really interesting breed differences, doesn't it? Holsteins versus Jerseys, for example.
It really does. Holsteins, like I said, average around 11% genomic inbreeding globally. Jerseys typically run closer to 9%.
Okay, 11% and 9%. Doesn't sound like a massive difference, but you're saying it has real implications.
It absolutely does. That seemingly small 2% difference means Holsteins bear the brunt of that $23 per cow hit much more significantly. Jerseys, partly because of their more regional breeding patterns historically, and maybe less reliance on just a handful of global superstar sires, experience less inbreeding depression.
Interesting. So smaller economic losses for them just from that factor.
Exactly. Holstein genetics flow globally, very interconnected. Jersey breeding, while it's international, is often a bit more regionalized, which seems to foster more diverse sire usage, naturally buffering things a bit.
Okay, let's bring this down to something really practical, something you can picture on your own farm. The article shares this compelling tale of two neighbors, two 80-cow Holstein herds, both using genomic selection, but with vastly different philosophies.
Yeah, it's a great illustration. So you've got Farm A. They are laser focused on maximizing milk volume, just sheer pounds in the tank. They've chased the highest ranking genomic bulls for milk yield, and their cows average a really remarkable 100 pounds per day. Sounds incredible, right?
100 pounds a day average? Yeah, that sounds great on paper.
But look at their components. Their herd averages 4.1% butterfat and 3.0% protein. You do the math, that works out to about 7.2 pounds of combined solids per cow per day.
Okay, 7.2 pounds of solids. Now, Farm B.
Farm B takes a different approach. Their main goal is maximizing component yield and herd health, not just sheer volume. They strategically select bulls based on fat and protein percentages. Their cows average 90 pounds of milk per day, a bit less volume on paper.
10 pounds less.
10 pounds less. But with significantly higher percentages, 4.6% butterfat and 3.4% protein, they also produce 7.2 pounds of combined solids per cow per day.
Exactly the same amount of solids shipped as Farm A.
Precisely. They're matching Farm A on the actual product they get paid for. But here's where it gets really profound. Think about the difference in their daily lives, the cows' lives. Farm B's cows are under significantly less metabolic stress.
Right, pushing for that extra 10 pounds takes a toll.
A huge toll.
Yeah.
So think about what that means. Less stress for the cow translates directly to fewer health issues, better fertility, easier breeding.
Lower vet bills.
Cows staying in the herd longer, probably lower cull rates. And think about the staff. Less burnout, lower turnover.
Absolutely. A less stressful operation overall.
When you pencil it all out, Farm B is just as profitable, very likely more profitable, running a less stressful, more sustainable operation.
The lesson there is just incredibly clear, isn't it? Chasing maximum milk yield isn't always the path to maximum profit or herd health, especially when you focus on what truly matters: pounds of fat and protein shipped, cow well-being, and a system that actually works for both people and animals in the long run.
And this isn't just a nice story and anecdote. There are hard numbers backing this up from research all over the world. It paints a consistent picture of what inbreeding depression actually costs you.
Okay, let's get specific. What are the direct hits?
Well, for production, every 1% increase in inbreeding typically knocks off 26 to 41 kilograms of milk annually. That's 57 to 90 pounds less milk per cow per year.
Per cow. Multiply that across the herd.
Exactly. And for fat and protein, you're looking at losses of maybe 1 to 2 kilograms each per percent inbreeding. Again, multiply that out. It adds up fast, silently draining profits.
Okay, production takes a hit. What else? The article mentioned fertility.
Fertility takes the biggest hit. That's what the article really emphasizes and what many studies show. Calving intervals stretch out by about a quarter of a day, 0.25 days, for every 1% of inbreeding.
A quarter day sounds tiny, but...
It sounds tiny, but when you're already fighting to get cows bred back on time, every single day matters to your bottom line. Those open days are expensive.
Definitely. And then there are the hidden costs.
Yeah, the less obvious stuff, but just as costly. Increased somatic cell counts, higher culling rates for vague reasons, more stillbirths, and those frustrating mystery ailments. Cows that aren't clinically sick with something obvious, but they just don't thrive. They don't perform like they should on paper.
Right, the just not doing well cows.
Exactly. And what's particularly concerning, especially from recent research coming out of places like Australia and Europe, is that the inbreeding we're accumulating now under intense genomic selection seems to be more detrimental than the traditional inbreeding from past generations.
Why would that be?
The thinking is we're making genetic changes faster than natural selection can comfortably keep up with. We're concentrating not just good genes, but potentially hidden negative ones too, very quickly.
And speaking of hidden negatives, we can't forget the actual genetic defects, the junk that can accumulate.
Oh yeah, There are over 130 known genetic defects in cattle, and that's just what we have reliable tests for.
And a lot of losses probably come from early embryonic death, right? Cows that just seem not to settle.
Exactly. That's a huge, often invisible cost. Organizations like Lactanet and CDCB are tracking these and developing tests, which is great. Most AI companies now provide carrier status for about 22 known defects on their bulls.
Which is helpful.
A good start, definitely. But it's still a small fraction of what might be out there lurking in the gene pool.
And the real nightmare scenario for geneticists
is the possibility of new influential mutations popping up, especially in a super popular AI sire. If a widely used bull carries a new harmful mutation, maybe even a mosaic one where only some sperm carry it, that mutation can spread like wildfire through the global population before anyone even realizes it's there.
Right, until you start seeing problems crop up everywhere.
The classic, really stark example is Pawnee Farm Arlinda Chief. One sire, one mutation. It's estimated to have caused over 500,000 spontaneous abortions worldwide. The economic loss, around $420 million globally.
From one bull.
From one bull. That's a really sobering reminder of the risks we run with such a concentrated genetic base.
Okay, so we've definitely laid out the scale of the challenge. It is a sobering picture. But this isn't just about identifying problems, right? It's about empowering producers with solutions. So let's pivot. Let's talk about some truly smart strategies that are building genetic resilience right now in the real world.
Absolutely, because there are solutions. One key strategy is called Optimum Contribution Selection, or OCS.
OCS. Okay, what is that exactly?
It's essentially informed genetic planning.
Yeah.
Taking a much more holistic approach than just picking the #1 bull.
Yeah.
Instead of just ranking bulls individually, OCS analyzes an entire group of candidate bulls together. It figures out the optimal genetic contribution from each one. The goal is always maximizing genetic gain, yes, but doing it while keeping inbreeding firmly under control across the whole herd, generation after generation.
Okay, so instead of putting all your eggs in one genetic basket, say using the #1 TPI bull on almost everything.
Right. You might use that #1 TPI bull, but maybe only on 40% of your herd. Then the #5 bull might go on 30%. And then you strategically use a few others, maybe lower ranking overall, but bringing in different sire lines to add critical diversity.
So you're still getting tremendous genetic progress from that top tier.
Definitely. But you're not concentrating all your risk into just one or two pedigrees. You're spreading it out, building resilience.
And does it work? Is there proof?
Yeah, the research really backs this up. Studies, including work involving Cornell University, have shown OCS programs can actually achieve higher long-term genetic gain than traditional selection methods, all while keeping those inbreeding rates squarely in check. It's not just theory. It's proven science. It balances that immediate gain with future sustainability.
Okay, OCS is one powerful tool. What else? The article mentions crossbreeding.
Crossbreeding is another strategy that's definitely gaining traction, especially for commercial producers, particularly those paid primarily on components, not just fluid milk.
Right. If fat and protein are king.
Exactly. A well-planned three-way cross, maybe Holstein, Jersey, and then something like a Montbéliard or a Brown Swiss can deliver significant, measurable improvements. You get that hybrid vigor, which often translates to better fertility, better health, more robustness.
So healthier cows, fewer vet visits, easier breeding, cows staying in the herd longer.
That's real money saved, real efficiencies gained. Even if your specific market demands purebreds, maybe it's not for you. But for commercial operations focused on profit per cow and herd robustness, it's definitely worth a serious look.
And gene banking. That sounds a bit sci-fi.
It might sound that way, but it's becoming more practical. Think of it as genetic insurance. Storing semen and embryos from diverse animals, maybe older lines or different breeds, just provides vital options down the road if current breeding trends create unforeseen problems or if needs change. It's about keeping options open.
Okay, OCS, crossbreeding, gene banking. These sound fantastic on paper. But we both know the real world throws up hurdles. What are the challenges to actually doing this?
Oh, for sure. Logistics is a big one. If you commit to an OCS program, for example, you might get a breeding plan calling for very specific matings. Bull A to cow 123, bull B to cow 456.
Yeah, that requires serious organization.
Meticulous record keeping, a super organized semen tank, knowing exactly which straw goes to which cow, It's more complex than just using one or two main bulls.
And inventory costs, using more bulls.
That's another one. Using a more diverse group of sires often means keeping more different bulls in your tank, which ties up more capital in semen inventory.
And then there's the human element.
Always the human element. It takes discipline. It takes a significant mindset shift, really. Moving away from maximizing every single mating for immediate, short-term milk yield. Of course, optimizing the long-term health, production efficiency, and welfare of the entire herd. That needs buy-in from everyone involved.
From the owner, the herd manager, the AI technician, everyone has to be on the same page.
Absolutely. It's a team effort.
Yes, here's the encouraging news, right?
Yeah.
Producers who have made this transition, who've embraced these strategies.
They consistently report that, it might be tricky at first, but it gets easier with time. And the results. They absolutely speak for themselves. They see it in improved herd health, better longevity, and ultimately more sustainable profitability. The payoff is there.
Okay, looking forward then. What's next? How is the future of genetic diversity management shaping up?
It's only getting more sophisticated. Artificial intelligence, AI, is starting to play a really crucial role. AI algorithms can analyze vast amounts of data to optimize breeding strategies, not just for gain, but simultaneously managing inbreeding and diversity across multiple generations. They can see complex patterns humans might miss.
That's fascinating. And sequencing.
Whole genome sequencing. It's rapidly becoming more affordable. It's dropped from thousands of dollars per animal down to just hundreds now.
That's a huge drop.
It is.
Yeah.
And it means we'll soon be much better at identifying harmful mutations before they spread widely through the population. We could potentially head off the next Pawnee Farm Arlinda Chief scenario before it happens.
Proactive rather than reactive.
Exactly. And what's truly exciting, I think, are the combined strategies emerging. Research is looking at using multiple approaches at the same time. Things like combining OCS with maybe weighted selection for rare but beneficial genes, some strategic outcrossing, and active management of known genetic defects.
Layering the approaches.
Precisely. Early research suggests these combined integrated approaches might deliver the best of both worlds. Continued, strong genetic progress with much better, more deliberate diversity maintenance.
So what does this all boil down to for you, the listener? It feels like we're truthfully at a crossroads in dairy genetics. We can continue down the path of chasing maximum short-term genetic gain and just kind of accept the hidden costs of genetic erosion as, well, the price of doing business. Or we can get smarter about how we breed our cattle. We can capture that incredible genetic progress genomic tools offer while simultaneously building herds that are more resilient. Resilient enough to handle whatever comes next, market shifts, new disease challenges, climate variability, you name it.
And the evidence is just unequivocally clear on this. Producers who take genetic diversity seriously, they don't sacrifice genetic progress. Not in the long run. In fact, they optimize it for the long haul. They're not accepting lower profits. They're building more sustainable, more robust operations, ultimately more competitive advantages for their farms.
That multi-billion-dollar hit the industry has already taken.
It's both a stark warning and an incredible opportunity.
Yeah.
The producers who heed that warning now are going to be the ones who capture the opportunity and build a more resilient future for their dairies.
So here's our challenge to you, our listener. Next time you're sitting down to select sires, ask yourself, and maybe ask your genetics advisor some tough, specific questions, like, what's my herd's current inbreeding level, really? And how's it trending? Is it going up?
And how can we apply some of these OCS principles, even in a simplified way, to strike a healthier balance? A balance between our genetic goals and maintaining diversity.
And maybe what outcross sires, if any, would be suitable for my system to introduce some fresh genetics without wrecking my overall goals?
Because the real question here, the provocative thought the article leaves us with, isn't whether you can afford to implement these strategies. It's whether you can afford not to.
Oof. Yeah.
The smartest, most forward-thinking producers in 2025 and beyond are actively protecting their herds and their profits by thinking beyond just the next bullproof. They're planning for genetic resilience.
So after all that, what's the key takeaway? If a farmer listening today only does one thing, what should it be? Give us those actionable insights.
Okay, yeah, let's boil it down. Here are the key takeaways to really chew on, the immediate actions you can consider. First, stop those silent profit leaks. Just remember that number. Every 1% rise in inbreeding costs you about $23 per cow per year.
$23.
Action. Check your herd's inbreeding numbers. Go to the CDCB or LactaNet website today or ask your advisor to pull them. Know your number.
Okay, know your number. Got it. Second, understand that genomic testing is powerful, but it's a double-edged sword. Yes, it boosts genetic gain like crazy, 12 to 100%, amazing. But it's also shrinking your genetic base fast. Action. Ask your genetics rep for the inbreeding coefficient on every single bull you consider buying. Aim for bulls below the breed average if you can. That's around 11% for Holsteins right now.
Be picky about the bull's own inbreeding. Makes sense.
Third, components consistently beat sheer volume for real ROI. Remember the tale of two neighbors. Same solids shipped, vastly different operations. Don't just chase milk pounds. Action. Shift your sire selection index, or at least how you mentally weight it, to prioritize fat and protein percentages and yield, not just total milk yield.
Focus on what you get paid for and the cow's health.
Right.
Fourth, diversify or pay the price down the line. Herds using OCS principles or strategic crossbreeding are seeing better health, lower vet bills, longer cow lifespans. Even if daily milk isn't record-shattering, action. Maybe try OCS planning for a portion of your herd, or introduce one suitable crossbred bull. Just observe, see how it impacts your cull rate, your vet bills, even your staff workload and morale.
Experiment a little, see the results.
Exactly. And finally, number 5, resilience is the name of the game for 2025 and beyond. Feed costs aren't dropping, labor is tight. Your genetics program has to deliver more than just big numbers on paper. It needs to build a robust, healthy, efficient herd that lasts. Action. Review your entire breeding plan. Look at it through the lens of long-term genetic diversity and operational sustainability. Don't get left behind focusing only on short-term index gains.
Powerful points. Build resilience. That's the key message.
Great points. And I think it's about all the time we have for today's deep dive. For more articles and insights that matter to your dairy operation, be sure to visit www.thebullvine.com.
And don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your deep dives so you don't miss the next one. Thanks so much for listening.
That's it for this episode of the Bullvine Podcast. We hope today's discussion gave you new ideas and maybe a few tough questions to bring back to your next breeding meeting. Remember, the choices you make in your genetics program today will shape your herd's health and profitability for years to come. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share this episode with your fellow dairy producers. For more articles, research, and resources, head over to www.thebullvine.com. Thanks for listening, and until next time, keep your cows healthy, your milk check strong, and your genetic decisions smart.